Welcome back, everybody, to Reinvent Yourself, Discovering Your Higher Purpose podcast. I'm your host, Andres Ruiz, and I'm really excited for our next guest who was part of the second Reinvent Yourself book. And her name is Shawnalee McDonough. And she has a wonderful story to share, just a very powerful story that she had to share. And I'm really excited just to get into it with her. Her chapter was called Embodied Beauty. Hold yourself to a standard of grace, not perfection. So, welcome to the show Shawnalee. How you doing today?
I'm wonderful. Thank you for having me, and thank you for also putting together, the book and, offering me the opportunity to be a part of it. So thank you.
It's my pleasure. So let's get into your story. Tell us, like, what was that story that you wrote about? Let us know what was that about.
Yeah, so it's like a chapter about my life, and probably like the one thing, main thing that held me back in life was, my body image, my self-image, and how it really started at a very young age. It started, as a child, and how that carried through me with many different aspects of my life. So the embodied beauty, like the title of the chapter, is, we need to accept ourselves first. And we have to love and own ourselves. And you can't be fully embodied if you can't accept yourself. And so it's been really a part of my healing journey of going back through and um, some revisiting of those events. But, later in my healing journey, I found that you don't actually have to go through every experience. Um, to be able to heal it. There's easier ways of going about it, and meditation, and a very specific style of meditation, and having Divine Mother come in and like healing every scar, and really that we're whole and complete as we are, and that even in the darkness or the shadow aspect, as many people call it, and even in the higher self, it's all one. We're all one. We're all whole. And so I
Yeah.
would say that probably my biggest message to anyone is that they are complete, and that it's okay to own your whole worth. And,
Mm.
it's taken me, I'm, I'll be 47 next year or next month, but it's taken me that long to really like own and accept that, and know that it's okay to accept all of your divinity, because really, I was trying to make up for that or find it in many different aspects, and we're divine in ourselves.
Absolutely. And
Mhm.
and I really enjoy what you said about how you, like you said, body image is something that a lot of people, I think women maybe deal with this a lot more. I'm sure men also do. I know I've been through that, but I know that women can definitely have a big challenge when it comes to that, especially with what they see, whether it's online or magazines, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But for yourself, like when do you think like was that first moment or there's those first moments when you started to realize that you were kind of like feeling whether it was judged or you judging yourself about your body image? When was that like for I think you said 8 years old or something like that, but
Yeah.
when was that first experience or do you remember when it started for you self like for yourself?
Yeah. So, several things. So, abused as a child, sexually by some uncles. Then, like, just remembering like my mom, and I remember somebody coming to the house, and she's like, "Oh, you got to cover up," and being part of a religion, and you had to like hide your body as well. But then it really became a bigger part when I was in sixth grade, and I was put on some pills, some medication for allergies, and I kept gaining weight. And I started to like hide what I was eating because I would get in trouble when I would eat. And I just was hungry because I was starving myself because I was afraid to put food inside my mouth, because all I would do would gain weight. And so I just remember like being so hungry, and I went into the fridge And like I started just eating because I was so hungry. And my mom's like, Shauna, what are you doing? You're going to get so fat. And like that just like really, um, it just played a big part because I was 25 pounds in sixth grade. And so, on the heavy side. And then the kids would make fun of me at school. And I kind of reflected in the story, it was really just coming at all directions. So, not only from like my immediate family, but then like my cousins and then at school. And so there was a lot of bullying going around. And so I didn't have like a sovereign, safe place to be. And so I changed a lot of my self-expression and I became a people pleaser in order to have people like me, or I called my weight, my physical weight is like a shield of protection. And that's
Mm,
really what the majority of weight is protection.
mm,
So that followed me through. In seventh grade, I changed doctors and we had a different insurance. And they're like, well, why are you on this? And it comes to find out that that was actually an appetite stimulant and it makes you gain weight. And
mm,
so we took that off and I started losing weight. Kind of the self image was already, the damage was done. And I
mhm.
remember I had this crush on this kid named Justin. And he's like, oh, you would be so beautiful except for your butt. Your butt is so huge. And coming from, the opposite gender, somebody that you liked, then like that just kind of stuck with me. And then everybody would always say, well, hey, you'd be pretty, but, and my mom would say, you'd be pretty, but you got to get this point on for your nose cut off. And then you would be pretty. And so there was like um, really a lot of the outer reflection because that was what was going on inwardly, but I didn't know how to control that because that just became a part of my persona, my identity.
Wow. Yeah, and thank you for being so vulnerable and sharing all this with us. I'm even learning something here, just it's so powerful to hear someone just say what they were feeling, what they were going through, kind of like the
Yeah.
shame that you had experienced and how it can definitely do a lot of damage to a young person, young kid. So for
Yeah.
you, it sounds like there was a lot of like self-image was a challenge for you. Like with all these people criticizing you and telling you all these things, like what do you feel that did to you, like as you were growing up and when you started getting into high school and in your 20s? How do you think that affected you?
Oh, yeah. So like growing up in that and then seeing the perfect image on TV and modeled by media, this is the perfect reflection of what a body should look like. Then it started to be me rejecting myself and me being the first one to not only reject myself but abandon myself. And so then even having that and being off of, the appetite stimulants, it just kind of stuck with me. And I remember the song, um, Big Butts Cannot Lie,
Yeah.
that Sir Mix-a-Lot. And
Yeah.
me, like, I just had a big butt. And
Hmm.
so, I would gain weight. And I remember being like a size 14. And it just kind of affected me in relationships, having a boyfriend. There was a lot of self insecurity. I had a couple, I had like a best friend that I took out to several dances and he asked me to several dances. And there was a few guys that, were, interested in me, but it was like starting with that self-acceptance. And so after high school, I started working at the ski resorts, and then I started drinking and partying. And then it became easy for me to remove the shell and, put on a different persona and, get acceptance in that way, with being with the different men. And then thinking that was going to fulfill the void. I kind of talked a little bit about that in the chapter of thinking that was going to like solve things of, here somebody on the outwardly accepting me, then that would change my self-expression. And that did
Mhm.
not. Um, so I got pregnant at 20 and, I gave him the choice to be in her life or not. He wanted me to have an abortion and it was a no for me. But then, he said, okay. And, um, we lived together for 11 years. And during that time, like we had my first daughter, and then my second daughter was 5.5 years apart. And then finally, we got married 11 years later. And I found out then I was pregnant with my son, and I was 6 months along. And, then we were married. So a total of 21 years. But that same kind of eating pattern and disorder followed me. And so, same thing kind of scenario happened where, I would be eating. And then, of course, there was like um, the emotional abuse that came back of you shouldn't be eating. And there was like a whole conversation on honey because I had some barbecue sauce with honey and how fat people shouldn't eat that. And so then I would not eat around him. We stopped eating at the dinner table, and I would eat either before he got to work or after he was drunk and in bed so that it would be late at night. And then of course, my eating habits weren't the best. So, like before work, I would go into the gas station and, just get whatever was in the shelf, which was usually like a sausage or an egg McMuffin or something like that. And so then it just really became that. And so then my obesity, so I got up to 264 pounds. And a lot of that was like the emotional abuse and um, not having that support. Like there was at different times, and I didn't necessarily get into the chapter about that whole situation or that with him. And I didn't think I needed to necessarily talk about that because I wasn't one sure. And there's just so many different layers and levels to that. Um, but then it came to the time that it was very apparent that a divorce needed to happen. And, I saw my life and my future, and it was just black. And I knew that there wasn't a future and that if I didn't do something that I needed to get out. So I left him and moved out. And I found my first mentor. And it was the week that I was moving out. And so with him, I was able to lose 55 pounds and 147 inches off of my body.
Whoa,
And
wow,
then, um,
amazing.
like the deeper shadow work. So I've been divorced now for about 5 years
Okay.
and been through the whole kind of healing journey of that aspect.
Wow. Yeah, that's powerful. Yeah, and yeah, it's amazing. Like all the weight that you've lost, and it doesn't you lost like a lot of weight, but you also lost a lot of the challenges. You overcame these challenges that you were dealing with, it sounds like, and you've done a lot of inner work. So it sounds like you met this mentor, and that was kind of like the turning point. So tell us a little bit about like what you did during that time period to like overcome this challenge that you have been dealing with almost like your whole life. And yeah, so please share that with us, some insights on that.
Yeah, so that was through Herbalife and losing the
Nice.
weight, helping other people too. He offered me an opportunity and said, "Hey, like you're going through a divorce, it helps you when you help other people." And that was true. It helped me keep accountable to myself, really starting to take care of my physical health.
Mhm.
But then I also found that there really needed to be like the emotional work, the spiritual work that needed to
Yeah.
happen as well. And I met my other first mentor that was like feminine embodiment and going through like shadow work. And one thing during like that part of the time is during that shadow work, I kind of took that on as my identity. So I replaced kind of that one identity with another
Okay.
and got lost in the shadow and
Mm,
going through different work. So my mentor last year is like, whenever you go into the shadow, you need to take your divinity with you because otherwise you can get lost. And it can kind of send people into kind of a form of psychosis or depression or sadness. So I had to go through and feel the feelings and go through a deeper embodiment and really radical self love and radical self honesty and being accountable to myself and then being kind to myself and stopping the thoughts that were just tearing me down or ripping me apart because really you can't ask somebody else to love you if you can't love yourself and
mm,
you can't be fully embodied um, if there's not a full ownership or acceptance of yourself because
yes.
you should be the first one to really offer compassion and love for all the experiences because really the pain and the things that we've gone through in life really are for our learning and everything that we've experienced here in this world is grace and
Mm,
that it's all a miracle and it's all a blessing even though at the time you can't necessarily see those things. And
mm,
so I've had many, many mentors. I've had several. And I've had many mentors that say, well, you can't do this, or you can't post this, or you can't be this way. And so then I was kind of changing back and forth and to really discovering my own sovereignty. And I could take other advice from other people, but yet I go inwardly now. Like I go in and really feel for myself
yeah.
and um, offer more compassion to myself and grace.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, no, and definitely dropped a lot of gems here and a lot of great insights. For people listening, just to close it, for people listening who are dealing with same challenges that you dealt with yourself personally in regards to like body image and all this, um, what like 2 to 3 tips would you give that person that maybe is going through what you went through at one
Yeah.
point in your life? And you did share some insights, but I would like to for you to just maybe just share with us 2 to 3 tips that people can start to do for themselves.
Yeah, really. It's offering like compassion and, the thoughts that are coming through, they're not all your own.
Mm,
Um,
mm, boom.
there's a book by I forget his name. He's got like three names, but he talks about how it's the law of attraction for thoughts. And so when we're thinking something, we're not only receiving our thoughts, we're receiving everyone else's thoughts as well. And so not
Mm,
to listen to the thoughts, it's really getting out of the mind into the body. And that's really the full meaning of embodiment. And so, going and doing your healing work, but remembering like through that healing work is to take your divinity with you, take that fullness, that whole self with you, because otherwise you could get lost. And then, seek mentors, find somebody to help you. I think that's probably the biggest thing that helped me overcome what I did. I tried like the counseling aspect before, and that didn't work out for me. Um, and then, discovering your path and like there's so many different tools and techniques and modalities and one can say one's better than the other, but um, your soul knows, your journey knows, and when you're open to like the healing path, you'll be guided, and you only need to know the next right step. You'll be guided throughout that whole journey to find where you need to go, and the mentors will show up and the people will show up who are there to guide you through. So, get the help and don't do it alone. And then know that you aren't alone, because that was also a part of my story is I felt so alone.
Yeah.
But really, it's a call from the soul to go back to yourself and to really go inward and not seek for love, but be love yourself and fill yourself with love, because you really are that. And that is like your divinity, your wholeness. You were
Mm.
never, ever, ever broken. It's just you weren't seeing the whole picture. And so I used to call that like the broken third eye, because I broke a makeup palette like several years ago, and the mirror was still intact, like the glass didn't fall off. And Spirit showed me like that was the image, the self image that I was imagining myself upon. And we can change our self concept, our self image of how we see ourselves,
Yes.
because really, you know, we aren't broken, we're whole.
Mm. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that was good stuff. This was like a master class right now that you taught us. It was
Yeah,
20 minutes, but like short, right to the point, and like yeah, you definitely shared so much insights today with us, Shawnalee.
yeah,
So thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you. You have an amazing story, and the story continues. I just know it, and continue to
yeah.
inspire, motivate people. And also, thank you, the listener, for tuning in. We will be seeing you on the next episode of Reinvent Yourself, Discovering Your Higher Purpose podcast. Have a great one. Bye.
Bye.